Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Coaches Huddle 831. Like always, we always want to talk about the purpose of our podcast is to highlight our 831 coaching community by sharing our experiences, thoughts, and perspectives. Also, our podcast is dedicated to the memory of Coach Anthony Cotty, my compadre, my coach, my brother. Always on our hearts, forever in our memories, Coach. So let us begin by introducing our next guest. I'm really excited to introduce this proud Trojan alumni, just like me. Our guest today is Coach Francisco Estrada, the head coach of the Alisal Trojans. He is the oldest of three siblings. He has one brother and one sister. He wants us to know that he is a proud, capital letters, proud son of Mexican immigrants. Coach is also proud to be the father of three beautiful, amazing kids. Xavier, Eva, and Emmanuel. Shout outs to Coach's kids. He feels privileged and wants to shout out Angie Vasquez, who he calls the best partner he could ever have. He currently works in the sped ed department at Alisal High School. Shout outs to the Trojans, and is focused on completing his degrees to become a teacher. Let us all welcome Coach Estrada to the Coaches Huddle 831 podcast. Thank you, Coach, for joining us.
Thank you so much to you for doing the podcast. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on.
Likewise, Coach. So we always start off with that non-football question, Coach. Coach, outside of football, what is something that you are passionate about?
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy. I'm a simple guy. My interests are football and family. So besides football, the main thing that I'm passionate about is my family. And when I talk about family, it's both immediate. You touched on my partner, my beautiful girlfriend Angie. She's amazing. I love to be around her. I tell her all the time. She's one of my favorite people in this whole world. She's super supportive in everything that we do. She's a great mom. She's all around amazing. She knows about coaching and the toll that it takes from us, and she's still been there by my side every step of the way. My son Xavier, who's now 18 years old, he's a senior. He's a great student, a great person. He applied to colleges, should be hearing back hopefully from a couple of them. He's carried a 3.8 GPA, and I think it's an interesting relationship because now that he's a little bit older, he's more of an adult. It's become more of a peer type of relationship, a mentor, a guiding type of relationship, and it's such a pleasure to be his dad. I told him once, and I really mean it. He makes being a dad so easy and so pleasurable. And then, my daughter, who's 11, she's a preteen. She's a beautiful soul, a beautiful person, and anybody that has a daughter who's a father knows that love between a dad and a little girl and a daughter is just a different type of love. It's so pure. It's so amazing to feel. I have a lot of fun with her. I take her to school every morning, and I always tell Angie if somebody were to put one of those hidden cameras on our rear view mirror, it would be a circus in the morning because we're laughing, we're screaming, we're singing, we're just having so much fun. And then we are blessed now to have our, I hope I get this right because I think Angie might be mad at me if I don't, but our 9-week-old, he might be 10 weeks.
Oh, wow.
But our 9-week-old, yeah, thank you so much. And that's Emmanuel. I call him the little hurricane. And I told you before, Coach, I'm a storyteller. I'm going to have to tell you right off the bat, I'm going to have to tell you the story. So in February, I get home from work one day, and I tell Angie, I said, hey, I'm craving some quesadillas. I say, hey, you mind making me a couple quesadillas? She said, yeah, for sure. So I sit down, she's on the stove, she's making a couple quesadillas. We're having some small talk about the day, and she says, hey, I got to tell you something pretty important. And I say, what's going on? She says, I'm pregnant. And I'm thinking, wow, oh my God, okay, here we go. So I kiss her, congratulations. Oh my God, this is such a blessing, and it's a beautiful moment. And then right away I go into coach's mode, and I start thinking, okay, it's February, so March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and I start thinking November. His due date is November 2nd. We play Salinas High November 7th, so fast forward to mid-October, Angie gets scheduled, and we get scheduled for the birth. And the reason why I call him a hurricane is because he got here like a hurricane. His story is so amazing, and he's only 2 months. So we get scheduled for the birth on a Sunday, the Sunday before the North High game, and I'm thinking, perfect. We're scheduled for the birth. He'll be here tomorrow, Monday. We'll be here in the hospital until Tuesday, and we'll be home by Wednesday. I'll be able to make the game. Well, of course, it didn't happen like that. When you always plan these things, they never come to fruition the way that you always plan. And he ends up taking 5 days. Wednesday night, we play North High on Thursday. Wednesday night, she finally goes into active labor. We're up all night. He gets here at 4:30 in the morning. I haven't slept. I'm still up from all the adrenaline just having a boy. And we both agree, me and Angie both agree, you got to go to the game.
Oh, wow.
And I say, my God, one of the other reasons why I absolutely adore you and love you. Thank you so much. So I get to the game, and it's literally about 10 minutes before kickoff, and I'm running onto the field. I get my headset, I put it on, all the players are happy, and I'm thinking, this is going to be a storybook night. My son was just born. Lo and behold, again, it doesn't happen that way. Things don't always happen the way that you think. And I think everything in my life has happened for a reason. We come out really slow. North High is firing on all cylinders. We go into the half down 33-8. We end up coming back in what is probably one of the greatest comebacks in Alisal history. And we ended up winning the game, I think 35 or 38-33 in the last seconds. I give a speech. I say, thank you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And I got to go. And I rush right back to Memorial Hospital to go be with the baby. So that same day, October 30th, is probably one of the most special days because my son was born at 4:30 in the morning, and I got to witness I got to be part of probably one of the greatest comebacks in Alisal high school football history.
Amen to that. I won't ask you which one is ranked a little bit higher, but I think I can guess which ones are, Coach. And then actually I wanted to shout out too to your amazing running back, Duarte, right?
Jaden Duarte.
Oh my goodness, that kid. I just wanted to shout you out, kid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jaden Duarte, we called him Agent Zero. I've coached him since he was about 5 years old. He carries a 4.0 at Alisal. He's gotten 1B his entire career.
That's awesome.
So the fact that he can do it on the field and off the field in school, I mean, he's an amazing kid. He was an amazing athlete. All league guy. Probably should have got the Gab League MVP, but he didn't, and he was there. He was really close, but he had an amazing season. Can't say enough about the kid. So super passionate about my family. That's a story about Emmanuel, what I call the baby hurricane, and then, a little bit of the extended family. I love hanging out with my mom, my dad, my younger brother, Ricardo. He's now our offensive coordinator for varsity. My younger sister, Valentina, she just became a mom for the first time.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to her and my brother-in-law, Zach, with my nephew now, baby Nico. My brother has 2 amazing daughters. He has, a shout out to my sister-in-law, Veronica, my brother's wife, my 2 amazing nieces, Catalina, and who I'm blessed to be a godfather of, Catalina and Natalia.
Great name. That's my wife's name.
Oh, there you go. Right. Yeah, amazing.
Shout out Catalina.
Yeah, there you go. So, I think the thing that I'm most passionate about is my family. When you think about, when I want anybody to think about Coach Estrada, it's football and family. And it's family first always for me, and then it's football second. And if you think about the Estradas, I think anybody would tell you we're a close-knit group. Every single weekend we're all together. Every single weekend every sporting event, we're always together. We're always watching something together. We're always watching kids. Right now, it's supposed to be my time off. Saturday mornings, me and my brother are coaching Catalina's YMCA under 4 basketball team. So super close-knit, super passionate about family.
Good. Well, looks like you have a really strong supportive network, Coach. And then shout-outs to Angie and to the other Estradas, coaches at home, right? Because always you have to have strong coaches at home as well.
Absolutely.
And all the other supporters out there of coaches. So again, shout outs to them. All right, Coach. Great start to this to the interview, Coach. So, Coach, how did you decide to become a coach?
It's again, I mentioned my brother Ricardo. So after high school, my brother Ricardo was playing for the Alisal Eagles. And
shout outs Pop Warner, Alisal Eagles.
Yeah. And I would go to every single practice. So I was out of high school, first year out of high school. I was 18 years old. I would go to every single practice in the summer, and the head coach approached me one day and he said, "Hey man, I see you out here every day. Who are you related to?" And I said, "Oh, my brother's he's Chicano. He's Richie. He's the quarterback." And he said, "Man, you ever thought about coaching?" I said, "Absolutely not. I thought I had to do all this training and get all these degrees." And he said, "Man, why don't you come help?" And I said, "Cool. I'll definitely go help." And I went out. By the end of the season, I was calling the offense. I liked the game. It was really good. And then I moved away for a while, so I left that. That was my first ever taste of coaching, but I think my first ever real year of coaching was in 2008. I came back to Alisal. I was a proud alumni. Coach Smith, who is, in my opinion, the best coach to ever do it at Alisal, and he'll be that until I'm done, because I'll toot my own horn, but I think by the time that I'm done at Alisal, I'll surpass Coach Smith and any other coach that's been there, and I'll be the best coach to ever do it at Alisal. But Coach Smith right now, I think, holds those reins. And I came back and I approached him. I said, "Coach, I want to coach. I want to help. Where can I help? I'll carry the ball bag on the bus if you want me to." And he said, "Man, why don't you come call the offense for JV?" So I called the offense for JV, and I'm proud to say that by that time, my brother Ricardo was already a freshman. One of my best friends now, Ivan Ramos, shout out to Coach Ramos. He was formerly the defensive coordinator over at Hartnell. Now he's our linebackers coach, or our DBs coach. We're still trying to figure that spot out for this upcoming year, but he coaches with me now. He was on that team and I coached him. And then our last guest on the Coaches Huddle, Anthony Romero, he was on that team also, so I coached him. And then our running backs coach currently, Marco Rosales, he was also our quarterback on that team. So I went back for about 2 or 3 years to Alisal, and I think that's where really my coaching career began. And then I took another break because my son was already getting of age to start to play football. And I said, well, I'm going to coach him. I'm going to take a break from high school, and I'm going to go coach him. And Pop Warner, that's where I met the Jaden Duarte when he was about 5 years old. And I always tell him, shout out to Jaden Duarte, but I always tell him, man, I met you when I remember you still couldn't even wipe your own mocos. And I used to have to wipe your own boogers for you, and you used to cry. But I met him. I started coaching. I think that, Coach Owas, I think that is where coaching Pop Warner and youth football is where I really fell in love with coaching. That's where I think for me, it just absolutely all originated. And it felt so organic. It felt so natural to coach with them. And I absolutely adored it. And I've been doing it ever since. I'm going on now my 16th or 17th year of coaching.
Nice. So you had kind of talked about, you started coaching really young, right? And it was thrown in, that opportunity that was kind of thrown in front of you. What's the transition from being a player? Because you could probably still play, at least in your mind, right?
Yeah.
From being a player to now transitioning to coach. Was there a big difference or, hard period where you're like, you're still kind of going back and forth?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the transition from playing to coaching is night and day. It's just a whole different world. And the main thing to me is, as a coach, now you hold all the responsibility for what's happening on the field. As a player, you're kind of reacting to what's happening around you, what coaches are calling, what coaches are seeing, and you're there to execute what is a game plan. As a coach, you're responsible to put that game plan together now. So you're responsible for so much more. And I really think that time that I spent in Pop Warner, and sorry, let me backtrack. That time, those first 2 or 3 years that I spent with Coach Smith at Alisal, I wasn't a very good coach. I'll be the first to admit that. I was always a student of the game as a player. I always loved the game, but I don't think I was a very good coach. And naturally, because it was probably the first 2-3 years that I coached, so naturally I had to get used to it. I had to learn how to put together a game plan. I had to learn how to call an offense. And that takes some time. For me, that took some time. And I don't mind saying that it took some time. I'm okay with that. And the transition between player to coach, I thought, well, I was always a decent player. I always knew my playbook really well. I always knew scheme pretty well. I thought it was going to be an easy transition. And it was like, it knocked me on my butt because it was night and day. Now the responsibility was completely different. Not only did I hold the responsibility for a game plan for execution, but now I held the responsibility of creating young men, and I was responsible for these young men. So that was just a totally different experience. So yeah, absolutely night and day.
Yes. Did you think now being a head coach, it's a lot of people call head coaches the no fun position, right, in football. Can you talk a little bit about that, coach?
Yeah, for sure. I think being a head coach is a lot of it is known as a no fun position because you deal with everything outside. In high school, you've got to deal with parents, you've got to deal with administration, you've got to deal with classified staff, with teachers, you got to deal with players, you got to deal with absolutely everything. What I try to do in order to keep it fun is I always want to coach a position, and I make sure that I love this saying, I make sure that I'm where my feet are at the time. So I make sure, I'll talk about this later, but I make sure that I'm intentional with my time, and that gives me a lot of joy. I have all the energy in the world when I go out to practice. I make sure that we have everything organized, and that gives me a lot of pleasure in coaching. It allows me to just lose everything that I have as a head coach, and now, okay, I'm just doing this now, whether I'm coaching defensive line, offensive line, whether I'm in an inside run period, a 7-on-7 period, a team period, whatever it is, whether I'm coaching a tackling technique. It allows me to just say, you know what, I'm going to get away from everything, and I'm just going to be here. And I think to piggyback on that, anybody that's coached with me, and I think all my coaches right now, they know that I'm an organizational freak, and I have a little bit of OCD. So in organizing, I think a lot of things, and having that OCD background allows me to say, okay, I know everything's going to run smooth. There's always challenges here and there and unexpected things that come up, but it allows me to say, okay, I've got this practice script and we're going to follow this, and I've got student assistants and coaches know every single role of every single minute, so I'm good. And I think that allows me to still enjoy the part of football. Yes, being the head coach carries, different responsibility. It carries different weight than being a positions coach, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah, good. So you already kind of mentioned already one or a couple. What are some of your mentors or influences?
So I think for sure, number one, my biggest mentor in my life has been my dad. I've learned so much from him, and not to say that I haven't learned, as much from my mom, because my mom's been a huge supporter, and I think she's one of the pillars of our family. She's the matriarch, but I think my dad has always been there, not just in the good times, in the bad times, but he's also one of my biggest critics. So I appreciate that about him because, as I said, my younger brother Ricardo, he calls our offense. And whenever we walk through the door, sometimes he is never hesitant to say, hey, you guys were pretty bad today. You guys were terrible. And I don't know if you guys are going to get this done. And I appreciate that from him because that makes me reflect on, okay, what can I do to get better now? And I'll tell you, one of the proudest moments for me was the day that I got the job at Alisal. And prior to that, I had coached at Alisal under Cesar Chaves, who was the previous head coach before me, and I think we kind of got to a point where we stopped agreeing on where the program was going. I'm definitely all about, I want to play the highest level of competition, and I think at that time the program was starting to say, you know what, we're tired of being the doormat of the Gavilan League. We're going to go down in leagues, and I just have a different vision. If I'm in charge, as long as I'm the head coach, I always want to play in the highest level of competition. I never want to shy away from it. That's my job. My job is to coach and teach our kids on how to do better. But I think we finally agreed, okay, I think it's time to now go our separate ways. And it was a mutual agreement. It was fine. I applied for the Alvarez head coaching job. I actually didn't get it. And like I said, I think everything in my life has happened for a reason because I didn't get it. Coach Ben Newman, who's a really good coach, Coach Ben Newman, ended up getting it, and I called him the next day and I said, hey, congratulations, Coach, I want to come coach under you. And I was ready to leave Alice. I was heartbroken. And I did that, and I told him the only way that I don't coach at Alvarez this year is if Alisal opens up. And lo and behold, a month later, Coach Chaves stepped down. I applied, and with who my biggest mentor is, my dad, I'm going to get a little bit emotional because I think about this, Dave, but I called him and I said, hey, I just want you to know that you're talking to the new head varsity football coach of Alisal High School. And I said, happy birthday, Dad.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was April 2nd. I remember clearly the day. It was April 2nd, and it was my dad's birthday. And my dad's taught me so much throughout my life. He's the one that started. I remember being 5 and 6 years old, running routes with my dad, him throwing the ball to me. We would wake up early on the weekends. He always pushed me. He loves football. He's a student of the game, and he's just always been there for me. So a huge mentor. I think number one is my dad. Another big mentor for me is Coach Salinas Smith. He's part of what I became as far as the legacy at Alisal, because when he took over the varsity program at Alisal, I was a senior. I played quarterback. We were part of the first ever team that made the playoffs, the first ever team that won a league championship. But even to this day, I text him all the time. We always talk, and it's not always just about scheme. It's not always just about X's and O's. It's about, hey, how do I deal with this issue? How do I deal with this player? How do I deal with this parent? How do you think I should go about with this situation? And he's got 4 beautiful daughters, so he's more involved in softball now than he is in football. But my first year, I think Coach Smith knew that I needed him for that guidance and I needed that support. And he actually accepted coming on as our assistant head coach. And I'll forever be indebted to him because I've learned so much from Coach Smith. So he's a huge mentor. I just mentioned another one who was on the podcast prior to me, Anthony Romero. So it went from me being his coach to him being my player to now he's like a mentor of mine because he's such a good coach. He's done it for a while. I go to him for a lot of questions, a lot of football related questions, non-football related questions, and he's more than that, he's just a friend. So he's also been a mentor. Coach Berlanga at Hartnell, I remember when I was first hired, I definitely went to Coach Berlanga for a lot of stuff. I remember he was still in Colorado. He would take my phone calls. He would answer my text messages. We talked about a lot of stuff. Shout out to Coach Berlanga, what they're doing over at Hartnell. And I know that he really deals with a lot of the mental side of the game. And I really tapped into that side of it because I wanted more guidance. And I'm a lifelong learner. I have a growth mindset, so I always want to learn from everybody. And I think he really helped out a lot in the mental aspect of how to be a head coach, how to sometimes go about some of the challenges. So he's also been one. And then some of the younger guys, I don't mind saying that some of the younger guys, like my brother Ricardo, I talk to him on a daily basis. He's now become a mentor of mine.
So how was that coaching with your brother? I know you probably growing up, you always didn't see eye to eye. You know that last piece of whatever at the dinner table. Did you guys kind of go at it a little bit?
You know, it's been always an absolute loving relationship.
That's awesome.
With my brother. I love him. I think he loves me. I hope he loves me. I love him dearly though. I'm 8 years his elder, 13 years my sister's elder, so I've always had a really good relationship. I say that my brother's my best friend. He's probably my best friend. He knows it. I think sometimes the brother, not the head coach, offensive coordinator relationship gets a little mixed up, which naturally it's going to happen. But he's always the one that I know he will make sure that his opinions and his advice is just completely raw. It's 100% raw, and he tells me uncut. Nope, you are completely wrong. And I tell him, perfect. As long as we can do that in private, as long as we don't do that out on the field or anything like that, we are perfect. And he'll call me out sometimes, and I kind of got to remind him sometimes, hey, Rich, you know I'm the head coach, right? And he says, yeah, but I'm just telling you. So it's a great relationship that we have. We bounce ideas off of each other, and I support him 100%. He has full reins of the offense. As long as I know what's happening, he has full reins of the offense. He's become such a student of the game. He's become just an amazing coach. And short story about him, he says that he's so dedicated to coaching because unfortunately he wasn't able to finish his senior year of high school football. And he says a reoccurring nightmare or dream is Coach Salinas Smith yelling at him because he didn't make the right read or he threw an interception because he also played quarterback. And he says that dream haunts me. And that's why it's always that motivator that I never finish. So I want to make sure that I keep up doing everything to the absolute fullest of my abilities.
That's awesome, Coach. So, what I'm hearing from you, it's very important. I know other coaches on this podcast have touched on it, of having that community of not necessarily coaches, but of similar men, right, or of coaches that you can rely on, you can go to and talk to. Other than the competition side, we all want to beat each other, right? Especially we're going against each other. But there's also that mentoring and that support. That's very important.
Oh, absolutely. And I think two guys that I have to mention are Alexis Ramos and Isaac Duenas. And they're some of the better players to come out of Alisal because they both ended up playing junior college football, but then they went on to play Division I football. Isaac Duenas was our lineman coach last year. Alexis Ramos was our defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. And I'm proud to say that both of them started their coaching career with me at Alisal, and now they're both coaching junior college football. So this upcoming year, Isaac Duenas will be a lineman coach at MPC, and Alexis Ramos will be the linebackers coach over at Hartnell. But those two guys are two guys that they're so knowledgeable, not just in football, but in the mental aspect of the game, in competing and how to compete and how to run practice and how to do all that stuff as far as football from A to Z. And I really leaned on them as a support system, and it's something that I don't shy away from. I tell everybody I'm a lifelong learner. It doesn't matter if you're Nick Saban or you're coaching for you flag football at the YMCA. If there's something that I can learn from you, I just want to talk to you. I just want to see. I want to pick everybody's brain. I always want to learn. And those two guys have really been a huge support system in the last 2 days. I'm going to miss them a lot. They're like my little brothers because they're both 25 and 26. I'm going to miss them a lot, and they're going to definitely be missed in the Alisal football program. But shout out to them because they have definitely helped me a lot.
Right on, Craig. So in coaching, Coach, what are some of your non-negotiables?
So I think my non-negotiables for coaches, number one is you got to be a good person. Number one, that's the first thing that I take away, and I talk to prospective coaches. My brother talks to prospective coaches. I have another coach who talks to prospective coaches. So it's a couple of us. It's a kind of hire by committee. But number one for me is you got to be a good person. You know, if parents were to see you with their kids or know that you're with their kids, would parents be okay with the way that you interact with their players? For me, that's really important because I'm a father. I take care of the program and I take our responsibility very serious. So number one is in hiring coaches, it's a non-negotiable. Is, are you a good person? Number two is energy. I think in the sport that we're in, if you have to coach with energy. It's hard to coach. It's hard to be a laid-back coach. There are some, and there's some that are pretty successful. But for me, in our program, I always want coaches that have energy. I want coaches that are spent after practice, coaching every single rep, demonstrating drills. I have a strict policy at Alisal that if you're a coach, you can't come in boots, you can't come in work clothes. If you have to, pack a little bag, and on the way, or when you get there, you got to change in the car. But you got to be able to demonstrate a drill. You got to be able to run around. You got to be able to have enthusiasm, excitement. Your time, obviously, as a coach is one. It's a non-negotiable. There's no sick time in coaching. So if you got 102 fever, well, you still better be out there. You got to wear a mask, but you still got to be out there. There's no sick time. There's no sick days. And then I think one of the other most important ones as a coach is you got to be able to love your players, and you got to be able to have your players love you back. You know, for me, I've told coaches, and I hold true to this all the time. I tell my players I love them all the time. And I tell them, I love you. Thank you so much. I love you. Take care. How you doing today? Hey, I just want to let you know, man, I was thinking about you today. I want to let you know I love you. And I've really come to push that in our coaching staff. But I firmly believe if you can't coach a player's heart and you can't get through to a player, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be Kurt Cignetti, Nick Saban, Dan Lanning. If those guys end up at Alisal and they don't love the players and the players don't love them back, nothing will get through. I remember being in high school. I adored my high school coaches. I adored Chenille Smith. I adored Jeff Ray. I adored Mark Poland. I adored Jeffy. I adored all those guys.
Shout outs.
All of them. If they told me, if Jeff Ray told me, you know what, as a DB today, our drill is going to be to try to run through this wall, I would try to run through the wall. That's how much I love them, and I knew that they love me back. So in hiring coaches, those are non-negotiables. I think as far as players go, number one for us is academics. That's a non-negotiable. In high school, either you have the grades or you don't. If you don't have the grades, then you just can't play. Simply, you just cannot play. But I think being a student athlete, student always comes first at Alisal. We're super big on academics. Our admin supports us in every single way, but academics is number one. And then after that, it's a couple things. I think respect, discipline, and work ethic. Those three things you have to have. Those are non-negotiables as a player. I think respect needs to come for your coaches, for your school, for your community, for your family, for your teammates. Respecting your opponent is high on our list. You have to have the discipline to be able to play this game because a lot of stuff has to happen in the offseason. There's 11 guys that have to do their job. So you have to be a disciplined type of person. You have to have a disciplined mentality. And then you have to have the work ethic. As a player, a non-negotiable. If you're going to be a player who doesn't like to work out, who doesn't like to go to practice, then you're probably not going to fit in our program. That's a non-negotiable for us. We don't accept laziness, not from coaches and never from players. Never from coaches and never from players. We never accept it.
It's attitude and energy has to be present. That can't be coached.
Absolutely.
Right. Great points, Coach. So what, and you've already kind of elaborated on it already, but what do you need in order to build a program? You're building a program. What's those things that you need to have present?
I think that's pretty simple. I think at the beginning of this college football season, I go back to a quote by Curt Cignetti, the head coach of Indiana, who's now in the national championship, and it's just 2 words. It's good people. So in order to build a program, in order to be where we're at and as successful as we have been in the last 2 seasons, it's having the people around us in our program that have made us successful. So that goes from all the way from Ms. Perez, our principal. Huge shout out to her because she supports everything that we do in athletics, everything that we do as far as ideas, new ideas, everything that we do. We're so supported by her. She's so responsive. She's so involved in everything. It's amazing to work for her. And then Mr. Gonzalez, shout out to him too. He's our vice principal of athletics. He's more of the guy that I see on a day-to-day basis, and I walk into his office, and literally this morning I walked into his office about 4 times, and I think the 4th time he kind of looked at me, he was like, again? Come on, coach. And I said, hey, man, this is what we do. I'm talking to you, and I appreciate him because, again, he gives me feedback, and he tells me sometimes, coach, this is not okay. What we're doing is not okay. We got to change something. And we've had our disagreements, but it's been so awesome because even in disagreements, it's so respectful that it's just, coach, no, we're not doing it like that. Or I tell him, Mr. Gonzalez, I don't agree. But at the end of the day, you're the admin. I'm going to do whatever you want. My football program is here to serve the school, not the other way around. So I respect you. Our athletic director, Jose Gill, who's been there at Alisal for a long time. Shout out to him. He's super supportive.
Class 89.
Yeah, he helps out with absolutely everything. Teachers there have bought into everything that we're doing, so that's part of building a program, getting the teachers to buy in. I think me being on campus, we now have 5 coaches who are on campus, so that helps out a lot in the biggest school in the county.
So why do you think that's important to have those 5 coaches there on campus?
Oh, I think it's a lot. I think the presence is number 1. The presence for the players and the support is number 1. So the players feel supported. Because the players see us on a day-to-day basis. It's not just, I'll talk about this later, but it's not just a transactional relationship where it's 5 o'clock. Oh, here comes coach, and he's coming down the ramp. It's 5, man. It's almost 5:01, and practice is about to start. And I see that he's barely tying up his shoes, and he doesn't even have his whistle. No, it's not like that. We're on campus every day. They see us every day. There's 5 or 6 of us that they see every single day. They feel supported. When they have issues, they come to us. We refer them to the right spots where they need to go. If teachers need to see us as coaches, they refer to us. They call us. They say, hey, I'm having a challenge with so-and-so. Can you step in? And that relationship is a little bit different because we can come in and say, hey, you didn't do your homework yesterday? Well, you know what? Why don't you see me after practice? I'll help you get your homework done. And stuff like that. So that's why it's so important. I think the presence on campus is so important because we get to support students. And we get to have the visual presence of them feeling us there. And we make it known. Rallies, we've got 5 or 6 coaches at the rally. At lunchtime, we're in my office, but we're always walking around. We're always visible. We always wear our coaching gear. So people know who the football coaches are on campus. And I think we're there to serve the school. And I think that's being felt now.
Yeah, and I know that's a credit to the school and the school community too of building that amazing energy, as an alumni and, going in as an opponent, just seeing how that community comes together. and to support not only football but all the athletic and all the different organizations there. That's one thing as a Trojan alumni that I'm very proud to see as well.
And coach, to add to that, I think right now the energy at Alisal is infectious. I think that place has such an amazing energy. I don't ever want to leave. It's a place where during the season I'm there at 6 in the morning, and sometimes I don't leave till close to 10 o'clock at night, and I'm okay. It's a long day, and I feel completely fine because I'm there. The energy is so good. Young kids now have this saying, and it's IYKYK. If you know, you know.
Oh,
If
okay.
you know, if you're from outside, you know, because you know. And I think Alisal is so unique. I love coaching Alisal, but I think it's so unique. I think we were talking about it earlier, and I'll tell you, I heard someone say it once. Alisal is probably one of the only schools, and I'm gonna try to say it without getting emotional, coach, because this really hits home in the types of players that we have. But it's probably one of the only schools in the area, if not the only school, where our players have to wake up in the morning. They have to get brother and sister up and get them ready for school. They have to sometimes cook breakfast for their younger brothers and sisters. They have to walk their brothers and sisters to school because a lot of our parents work in the fields, they're gone early. Then they have to walk to Alisal, make sure they don't turn on the wrong street or see the wrong person. Then they have to sit down and they have to learn for 7 hours. And then they have to come to practice. So one of the things that they have an adventure before, they have a full adventure before they even get to sit down in a seat and start learning. So I tell our coaches, our 2 hours and 15 minutes with them has to be the best experience of their day. It has to be. It cannot be added pressure or an added negative to their day. And I really feel wholeheartedly about that because our community that we serve, it's a unique community.
Absolutely, Coach. So I know you touched on this a little bit already about what are some of your keys to success.
I think establishing a culture and a standard is the priority. For us, it's been a priority, and like I mentioned, everybody at the school has been so supportive. But it's a thing where we have to establish a culture, and the standard has to be the standard. There's no compromising on it. And I'll tell you, in the last 2 years, we've had some issues with some players because our standard has been so high. But our standard is always so high because we think that we can achieve that. We're the biggest school in Monterey County, so there's no way that our standards should ever be lowered. Our standards should always remain high, and I said it before, as long as I'm the head coach, we will never request to go down in leagues. We will always be, I always want to play the Palmas. I always want to play the Salinas High, the Hollisters, the SoCals. I want to face the hardest competition. And if we're not winning, then it's my fault. It's not the kids' fault. It's a coaching problem. So I've got to adjust the way I'm coaching. I've got to do something different. But my standard that we're setting, the standard that we're setting at Alisal is going to be the standard for everyone. Jaden Duarte, who we just talked about, he was always held to that same standard. And everybody's going to be held to that same standard. It's never going to change. Accountability is another key to success. We have to hold everybody accountable. Coaches need to be held accountable just as much as players. And I tell our coaches that tomorrow we're going to have our first coaches meeting to kick off our off-season program, and that'll be a huge topic. Our accountability is number one. It's priority. Because how can we hold a kid accountable when they look at us and they say, well, coach, you just sit there at practice. You're on your phone. You're in the weight room and you're on your phone. Sometimes you don't pay attention. Sometimes you're goofing off with us. No, it's not that. We have to be just accountable. Us as coaches, we have to be just as accountable as our players are. And then another key to success for us, I think, is resiliency. Playing in the league that we play in right now, facing the competition that we face, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be losses. But even if there's losses, we have to be able to say, okay, we're going to chalk this up and we're going to learn from this. We're going to get better at this. And I think year over year we've done that. But I think the main thing for us is the resiliency. Can you get knocked down and can you get back up? At that North High game that I talked about where the baby hurricane was born that morning, at that North High game at halftime, I had to take a step back and I had to say, okay, right now we're down by 4 scores. I got to figure out how to not to lose this team right now. I got to figure out how to not let guys get down and just quit on us. And I don't know, I can't remember verbatim what I said at halftime, but it must have been something because we were able to come back. But that's where, for me, the biggest wins are. Can you get knocked down and then can you come back? That's a key to success for us. Not just in football, though, it's also in life because it's going to happen.
Yeah. Great response, Coach. So, what are some issues that are currently present in the game? For example, we have NIL, we have social media, etc.
So I think NIL and the whole landscape of college football is changing and has changed pretty much overnight, that it's created a huge challenge in high school football in the sense of big time programs are now taking 7, 10, max, sometimes 12 high school guys. They're recruiting them because now you got Oregon, you got USC, you got Notre Dame. They're saying, well, let me just scroll through this portal and let me just pick this guy. Let me offer this guy $3 million because they only offer him $2 million over there. So they have that pick of just a plethora of players, and it's really starting to leave high school players behind. And not that it's a bad thing. It can have its positives also. But what's happening is now high school players are going to be forced to play more junior college football. They're going to be forced to play not a lower level, but a junior college, a Division III, an NAIA. They're going to be forced to go there, do good, and then transfer out because now colleges just have so many players at their disposal that they can just say, okay, I'm not going to go take a 17-and-a-half-year-old that just graduated when I can take a 22-year-old who's already played 2 years and is already doing it.
It's already graduated too. It shows that responsibility.
Yeah. Everything. He's more mature. He's more developed. So I think that poses NIL, college football. I think the landscape is changing rapidly, and it's posing that challenge for our high school players. When we touch on social media, I think is a real big challenge for us right now in high school because it gives a false sense of reality and a sense of entitlement to players. So now they're looking at the Dante Moores, the Mendozas of Indiana, the Pavias of Vanderbilt. They're looking at Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. They're looking at Ryan Williams from Alabama, and they're just seeing the finished product. And they're saying, well, he's scoring all this, and he's making all these millions. I'm pretty good, but what our players don't see now with social media is they don't see the process. That's what they're failing to see, and I think that's what social media is creating, this false reality of I've already got here, I have all this success, but nobody ever shows Ryan Williams, the receiver at Alabama, waking up at 5 in the morning on Saturdays. Nobody ever shows the injuries that Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State has had, or the fact that Dante Moore has had all these setbacks. Nobody shows that because social media is just this false sense of reality now. So what we try to portray and what we try to push at Alisal in our program is you got to be in love with the process. You can't just buy into all the social media. Social media is fine. It serves its purpose, but you cannot just buy into this finished product. We've got to be in love with the process because we've got to get from this step to this step, but we've got to do everything in between here. So I think that's a really big challenge that we have right now.
Yeah, and we talked about that. You got to be in love with the practice, right? And
absolutely.
The games are great, but it's about practice.
And I tell our players all the time, and it does. I think it ruffles some feathers with our players, but now they're starting to understand it. For me, for our coaching staff at Alisal, it's performance over potential. You've got to be able to perform and not tell me, Coach, well, this is what I can do. Coach, this is what I can do. The biggest thing for us is you got to be able to perform in practice to be able to earn minutes on the field. Your minutes at Alisal are not determined on your potential as a player or what Instagram reel you posted or what 7-on-7 catch you did this weekend. Your playing time at Alisal is determined on how hard you push yourself Monday through Thursday. How much you're locked in Monday through Thursday. If you've got a gasser, if you've got a 40-yard sprint, are you going 43 yards or are you stopping at 39? Yeah. So all of that is huge. Performance over potential.
Thank you, Coach. So let's talk about that. So, this is that one, I think, for me that as a coach, the X's and O's question that I like to ask. How does your weekly practice look like, or how do you prepare for that Friday or Saturday game day?
I think it's there's a million ways to skin a cat, but at the end of the day, you're looking for the result, and that's a win. I'll tell you one thing: at Alisal, practices are always going to be harder than games. For me, practices are always going to be harder than games because Coach Ariati, I hope I said his name right, UConn women's basketball, he always says, if you expect a young person on game day to just say, I'm going to turn that switch on, it's not going to happen. It's really hard to happen. And our players have now started to buy into it. Our players understand that practice is going to be so high tempo, they're going to be so upbeat, they're going to be so energetic, they're going to be so hard that on Fridays, now it's like, man, I've been here. I've done this all week. So that for sure is one thing. Our energy at practice is going to be infectious. It's going to be to the highest level because we want practices to be harder than the games. Literally, we want practice to be harder than the games. We want everything to happen, all the prep work to happen during the week, because if now on Fridays we expect somebody to flip a switch or we expect a coach scheme or a coach technique, we can have reminders, but if you expect to coach that, now you're behind the eight ball. In my opinion, now you're behind the eight ball. Mondays is always going to be a long time meeting day. We're going to set the schedule for the week. Everybody's going to know what the schedule for the week is. Everybody's going to know that we're going to have an introduction of what the game plan is for that week. Key players, whether it's what they run on offense, what they run on defense. We'll walk out to the field. We'll have a deep stretch period. We always want to do a deep stretch period for about 20 or 25 minutes. It's a cool period where guys are talking. It's a little bit lax. It's a little bit cool, but you're still locked in. And then we go to introductions. And offense is introducing what they do on defense. Defense is introducing what they do on offense. We do a little bit of on-air stuff. That's what a regular Monday looks like. Tuesdays is now a defensive day. But at the end of Tuesdays, we're going to start incorporating a little bit of offense. Wednesdays is an offensive heavy day, and then we do a little bit of defense. And then Thursdays is usually our walkthroughs. That's a typical week for us. Things may change here and there depending on the game plan, but our players know what to expect. We set game plans on the weekends as coaches. We set practice schedules on the weekends as coaches. We set scripts on the weekends as coaches. And our players know what our practice schedule is going to be for that day, what script of plays we're going to run. Our players know all that because we want to take all the anxiety out of it. We want to take the thinking, what's in store today? We don't want that. We want them to see our game plan. We want them to see our practice plan and say, okay, I got this, I got this, I got this. Let me start mentally preparing for what's coming after school. Let me start mentally preparing for what those reps are going to look like at practice.
So, a lead question also, I had a coach tell me that there's, 3 seasons, right? There's the preseason, there's the in season, and there's the off season. For you, what does your off season look like for your program, coach?
I think ever since I took over, the weight room has been a priority. So I don't know how it was before. Before I got to Alisal, I think weight room was a part of every single football program. But now weight room is a priority. And not to say that it's required because we can't require it in the off season yet, but it's a priority. If you're gonna play at a high level at Alisal, and then we expect to compete in the Gavilan League against the Palmas, the Salinas Highs, the SoCals, the Hollisters of the world, we need to have a strong weight room program. And the beginning phases of the weight room program is all about getting strong, gaining mass. Then we go into an explosive phase. And there's so many different things now. There's so much studies now on weight room. We have a coach that specifically handles that. I chime in a little bit. But our main goal in our off season is weight room and speed. Weight room first. We're going to get big. We're going to get strong. And then we're going to become explosive. And that's with speed workouts in the weight room, with explosion stuff, with plyometric stuff. But it's really a priority for us to be in the weight room as much as we can. And I want to say it's been pretty successful. Last year, I think at peak times, we had about 65 guys in the weight room, which we had to have 2 or 3 sessions. I'm expecting no different this year. Our coaches are required to be in the weight room. And like I said, coaches meeting, we have our off-season coaches meeting tomorrow, and our coaches are really good. All of our coaches are weight room junkies, and they like to be there. They enjoy that time. So for us, priority number 1 is the weight room.
Here's a question, Coach, because I know both of the previous podcasts have touched on this, and especially Coach Cuevas, shout out to Coach Cuevas. that one of the challenges he saw was numbers, right? Retaining the numbers. Have you seen that to retain your numbers?
We have not. So we started the season with 156 players. We ended the season, I want to say, with about 148. So I think we had four or five. I think we had three or four quit. I want to say one of the proudest things of this past season was that we had three ineligible players when grades came out. 156 players, only three were ineligible, not on varsity, in the entire program, freshman, JV, and varsity. There was only three, and we didn't lose any of them because they were all able to pull it together at the end and become eligible. So we didn't lose anyone to grades, but we don't have a numbers problem. I think for us, we do a lot of active recruiting, and I use the word recruiting cautiously, but we do a lot of active recruiting on campus. So when we see anybody, anybody coming by, hey, you play football? I haven't seen you out there. You play football? Hey, why don't you play football? Hey, you look like you would be pretty good at football. And a lot of kids are, oh, I don't know, yeah. But we do a lot of active recruiting throughout the school year, so we don't have a numbers problem at Alisal.
Do you think the three-sport athlete is a thing of the past with this whole idea of specialization?
I think specialization is something that's I want to call it, it's a fad, and it's a negative fad, because if you think about the greats in sports, in all sports, Kobe Bryant, amazing soccer player. I'm gonna say he was probably top three greatest basketball players ever. Michael Jordan went and played baseball. He wasn't a very good baseball player, but anybody that plays Major League Baseball has to be pretty good. Tom Brady, amazing lacrosse player, football player also. So I honestly think that once again, it's a social media thing where parents and players are seeing, I got to specialize. I got to do football year round. I've got to do basketball year round. I've got to do baseball year round. And it limits players. It limits players, I think, because it hinders their growth mentally and learning different things. It hinders them in being part of different communities, because a football community is different than a soccer community at a school. So they can be part of both of those communities. And it also really limits them physically. In baseball, you use different muscles than you do in soccer. In soccer, you use different muscles than you do in basketball, but they're all complementary. So I think it is definitely a challenge, but at Alisal, we 100%, in our football program, we 100% encourage multi-sport athletes.
Yeah, would you agree with me? I grew up, if it had a ball, I was playing, right?
100%.
If I wasn't at home, 'cause if I was at home, I was either in trouble or sick, and it kept me out of trouble too, right? Being involved in sports.
Coach, I talked to my mom a lot about this, and we talk about youth nowadays and how they're so caught up on phones, they're so caught up on video games. I told my mom on the weekend, every day on the weekdays, as soon as I got home, it was, I got to hurry up and I got to do my homework, and then I got to get outside. Yeah. I want to get outside. I want to go ride my bike. I want to go throw rocks. I want to go throw the football around. I want to go kick a ball around. And now it's not like that. I saw a podcast with Ed Reed, the Baltimore Raven, the Hall of Famer. And he said he thought he was so good, not because anything that had happened in high school, in college. He said he thought he was so good because by the time he could throw a ball, he was throwing a ball every day. He was jumping, he was catching, and all those skills he started learning at such a young age. Coach, I 100% agree with you. I didn't want to be indoors. I remember my mom bought me a PlayStation when I was like 15 years old, and I said, what am I going to do with this? I'll play it for a little bit, but after about 30, 40 minutes, oh, man, this is boring. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go do something. I'm going to go be active.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, great response, Coach. So what's one final thought, Coach, or quote that you want to leave with our listeners?
I think my main thing is making sure that everybody and all listeners understand that at Alisal, my view of coaching is I'm a transformational coach. And I get a little emotional saying it because I'm given the responsibility of, as freshmen, I tell parents, you give me a boy and I'm going to give you a man if he sticks it out for 4 years. And I really mean that. I always want to be a transformational coach, meaning I want to transcend lives. I want to transform lives. I want to get you as a freshman in high school, and by the time you leave, uh, X's and O's, wins and losses, football is secondary. I want to make sure that you're a good person, first of all. I want to make sure that you're a good human being. I want to make sure that by the time you leave Alisal, you're going to end up becoming a good husband. You're going to become a good father. You're going to become a productive citizen. And that to me is non-transactional. There's a difference between transformational and I think transactional coaches. I always want to be known as a transformational coach. Another thing is, find a purpose. Wake up with a purpose. I try to wake up with a purpose every single day in life. I try to wake up with a purpose on, I have a plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm here for a reason, and I'm going to go attack the day. I want to tell everybody should always have a purpose. And the last thing is, and I'm trying to do this a lot more, but when you find a purpose and when you hone in on something, try to be intentional with your time. I think we're so caught up in screens now that it takes us away from the real moments and enjoying life. And I try to do that a lot more. If I'm with Angie and I'm with, the baby hurricane, I try to be as intentional. And I'm guilty of it. I'm not sometimes. And I want to be more intentional. So I think making sure people understand, I love what I do. I want to transform and transcend lives. I want everybody, and I always want to wake up with a purpose every single day of my life, because every single day that I wake up is a great day. And I want to be more intentional with my time. If there's anything that listeners can take away, I hope it's one of those things right there.
Amen to that, Coach. Now, to our listeners, if they would like to get in contact with you, how would they be able to get in contact? If you have questions or comments?
So social media is probably the easiest way. Alisal_football is our Instagram. My email is my first name dot last name Francisco.Estrada, and it's at Salinas UHSD.org. After you send me an email, you'll have my phone number, and I don't mind talking to. I love talking to people all the time.
I will make sure that this is posted at the bottom of the podcast as well as far as the video. But I apologize, I jumped the gun. That was supposed to be our last question, but we have a couple more for Coach Estrada. Coach, so what do you want our listeners to take away from our conversation, Coach?
What? I think knowing that I'm doing what I love right now. I'm living my dream. My dream has always been to coach and teach at Alisal, and I'm getting closer. I'm in the education field, and I'm getting closer to teaching, but I'm doing what I absolutely love. When I do it, I mentioned about the 6 a.m. to sometimes 10 p.m. days, and they don't feel like work. I'm tired, of course, but I heard this once: if you're not tired, then you're probably not a good coach. But I want everybody to know and everybody to realize that or everybody to know and understand that I love what I do. I love the place that I'm at. I love the people that I work with. I love every single day of being at Alisal. It's an infectious place. I went there. My brother went there. My sister went there. My son's graduating from there. My daughter will go there. My son will go there. If I have it my way, I'll probably put it in my trust and my will. My grandkids will go there. Alisal is a beautiful place. I love what I do every single day, and I think I've found my purpose, and that's to hopefully transcend lives. And if I can transcend one, then that's all for the better.
That's awesome, Coach. That's awesome. So, I'd like to thank Coach Estrada for joining us today. Don't forget to join us on our next episode, and please subscribe to our Facebook page under the name Coaches Huddle 831. You can also listen to this interview on YouTube and Spotify under the same name. Don't forget to support our schools like Alisal, Go Trojans, or the many other great schools in our area. You never know, you might become a fan or rediscover something that you had inside of you, right? So also get to see some amazing student athletes that represent our 831 area. Thank you again to Coach Estrada. Thank you to all the amazing coaches and supporters of the 831. Again, Coach, thank you so much for this interview.
Appreciate you, Coach, for what you're doing.
Thank you. And also, I want to send a little shout out to Coach Adam Martinez. Rest in peace to his stepfather, John Manuel Caceres. So, Coach, You're on our memories and our prayers too, Coach. Thank you.